Hello, everybody. Today on the channel, we have a very special guest, Mr. Todd McFarlane himself. Todd, how you doing today?
Good. Terrell, what are you doing today? How's your day going?
Oh, it just got even better.
Oh,
It just
shoot.
got even better.
Oh, come
This
on, man.
yeah, no, this is the highlight, man. Like I said,
Oh,
I guess like I said before we got on, we've crossed paths so many different times, but
yeah.
finally, getting to get this time with you is very special. I
Well, I
really
appreciate
appreciate.
you giving me the time, Terrell. It's all, I mean, again, we do our work, but we also need, good people like you to help sort of spread the gospel. So thanks.
Oh, I'm here to spread it. I'm here to spread it. So, like I said, last year was a big year for you. You had a lot going on, had a lot to talk about. But I want to start this off, talking about one of the things that's taking up majority of the space in my house, and that is McFarlane Toys.
Wow.
Just get into that because, like I said, we talked about that. I know you guys are celebrating your 30th anniversary this year, which is
Yeah.
crazy. To think about where you've come from, where from comics to the biggest toy game in the world, like to think what Hasbro and these other companies have to deal with just to get on
Well,
par with.
Terrell, I don't know how old you are, but if yeah, it's interesting. I guess we've been at it a long time. So if somebody was like just born when we started the toy company, they'd be 30, right? So
Yeah.
they wouldn't even know it. But again, given that we have a lot of young fans, it's hard for them to imagine that when I started, I was sort of a lone wolf back then, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I was looking at like what the big boys were doing, and I was a geek and a fan just like you, and I just and a collector, and I just couldn't bring myself to buy it because I just go, it's not up to my standards. And whether that was on the sports side or whether that was on just the regular action figures. So I was hoping a couple of things would happen. One, I could sort of do enough business to make a living out of it, and if I could show another way of making toys and be successful, and you have to be successful because otherwise people aren't going to look at you.
Right.
That it might inspire other companies to pay attention and go down the same path. And now, fast forward 30 years, you go to Toy Fair, you go to San Diego Comic Con, New York Comic Con, and there's dozens and dozens of companies that do amazing work, right? I mean, you can just walk around and just see hundreds and hundreds of toys
Oh, for
that
sure.
oh, like again, 30 years ago, I'd walk around Toy Fair and there'd be like one or two or three, maybe I thought that excited me. And now there's hundreds and hundreds. So that's what I was hoping for. Cause I go, oh, now that means there's more toys for me, the geek, to go buy. They don't all have to be made by me. Right. But if somebody has to go out there and show them that there's sort of another way to make toys. And oh, by the way, make toys for sort of big boys and girls.
Right. And what I think I like about it, I mean, competition brings out the best, and sports fans, companies, everything. Like when
Yeah.
you have somebody else that's testing the market and say, man, they're putting out toys and they don't cost $300, and you get an extra accessory and heads and stuff like that. That's definitely one of the things I appreciate about you guys, that I can spend $25-$30 and feel like I got my money's worth.
Yeah.
And it's really, the detail is impressive, the packaging, everything is impressive. I mean, you guys definitely, every detail of it. I mean, it's
Well,
definitely.
yeah, it's interesting because unfortunately, labor costs and shipping costs and just raw goods have gone up over the years, right? Because when
Mhm.
we first entered, action figures were $5.99, right? That was, and I'm like, oh man, like, because I remember for a long time ago, no, we're never going to break $10, right? It has to be single digits. But back in the early days, the big companies, when they saw what I was doing, they were like, Todd, you can't sell a $6.99 toy because toys are $5.99, right? And the answer was always the same. And I've said it in lots of my interviews. It's like, sure, you can sell a $6.99 toy. Make sure you give them $6.99 of value. As a matter of fact, give them $7.99 of value and price it for $6.99. You sell it even better, right? So I think what they were thinking was, oh, how do we sell our $5.99 toy for $6.99? The answer is you can't, because then people are going to know they're not getting the value. But eventually, they sort of laughed, saying nobody's going to pay more money. Of course they will, right? I'm like, people will pay $100,000 for a car instead of $20,000 because they think that it's a better car. So, and I used to collect baseball cards. They were like 30 cents a pack, and then Upper Deck came along, and it was $1 a pack. And people go, "Wow, nobody's going to pay $1." But when you saw those cards, you went, "I'll pay $1 for that," because they were giving you value, right? So and then eventually they figured out that I was like, guys, you're even missing the equation for Fortune 500 companies whose whole agenda is to maximize profits, which is what they're supposed to do for the shareholders. I go, all you got to do is put in 25 cents more, and you can charge them $1. So you'll make more money. Just put in a little bit more effort. Come on, guys. And even they after a while, even they figured it out. They're going, so if we make a better toy, we can charge more. Yes, ding, 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 you can. But they could only put in 25 cents because I'm not a public company. I was able to put like 80 cents in, right? Because I don't need the same amount of return that they do. So they were never going to catch my tail.
No, like I said, you said 30 years in the game, like it's definitely that's not nothing to sneeze at. I mean, because there's been a lot of companies that barely see a year this time. But what I mean, obviously, like you said, with everything that you offer, what do you think is giving you, besides like the value, the edge in the toy market? Like, what's kept you around?
I became Terrell here for the longest time, and I'm still kind of in there. I became a unicorn. I was a unicorn. And what that meant was that either you were like a big mass public company and you were, Mattel, Hasbro, Playmates, whatever, right? And you were over here selling what I call the tonnage programs. You make the toys, you don't care about what it looks like. You just make tons of it and hope that the 6-year-olds and the moms who are not art critics are just going to buy it because it's got the brand at the top, right? So to them, Superman, as long as he had a red cape and blue uniform and an S, that was Superman, right? So it's okay. So there's just sort of almost a checklist for moms and 6-year-olds. So what we did was we became the art house, right? So we were the art house over here. They were sort of the public companies over here doing the tonnage program. Now, after a while, companies, like I said, started following the blueprint I was doing, and they became art houses. But the one thing that they weren't doing, and even 30 years later, it's like there's only a couple of them, but I was doing it from the very beginning, was I was doing the mass distribution with the art house look. I was able to get my art toys in Toys R Us, in Walmart, in Target, in Kmart, all the places, right? All the big places. And so it made me our company a little more legit to go and get other licenses, because when we went to other studios or video game companies or whatever, sports, when we went and, got the NFL and Major League Baseball and NBA, we were able to say, hey, and we'll sell it nationwide, right? So nobody was doing the combo, right? They were either just doing tonnage program or they were doing art. And there's nothing wrong with it, but they weren't getting the distribution, and I was able to cross the boat. So I was sort of a unique item that was out there that was able to talk to on the business side and appealed to the geek and the art side.
Yeah, I mean, that just really just makes the most sense. Now, one of the questions in that department is I've noticed, like, obviously you've had a big partnership with DC. That's been like one of the biggest things. Just recently you dropped the Batman the Animated Series figures, which look incredibly well, which I think were a Target exclusive. That might have been everywhere, but I've mostly seen them at Target. But I have not been able to find them on the shelves. Like, I feel like you just talked about it like a few months ago at Toy Fair, and now all of a sudden it's like you can't find them anywhere, and they look really good.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Terrell, is when we go in and we sell, and then we're with the buyer. I don't care what company it is, right? And then we go back and forth, and then they put down a number, right? And then we deliver that amount to them. Here's what's never happened. I only get 2 phone calls. You only get 2 phone calls from the retailer. Number one is, Todd, they sold out real fast. You got any more? Or, Todd, they're not moving as fast as they should. How are you going to help me? They're backing up, right? So it's either I'm not selling them as fast as I should, or I'm selling them too fast. I've never got the phone call that said, man, I nailed it. I just got the right amount. It was just perfect. I don't need any more. This is just going to do me great. Right? It never had you. So whenever they phone, you go with a 50-50 call. They either want more, or they're going to bellyache that it's not selling as fast, and there's anything you can do to help them. So it's just the nature of the beast. So when we get items like you're talking about with the Batman animated and it sells, then do we get the phone calls? Yeah, but it's not it's not like making hats or T-shirts, baking cakes or something. We can't do it fast, right? It's a process, and it comes all the way over from China. So there's no easy way to replenish. Sometimes we will overproduce so that we have stuff in the warehouse and we can then, ship it. So we just go, oh yeah, you want some more? We've got some more, right? But that's again, you have to be very careful. That can be a dangerous game, as you might imagine, because if you sort of back up everything that you're doing and, half of them don't sell at the rate you want, you've got a warehouse full of goods that are no good to you, and you've got your money tied up. So I always sort of told my people, better to be short and have everybody clamoring for it, including, and besides the customer and the fan, the retailer, than to have too much and people going, who cares? So in this case, I know it's a bit frustrating, but that's just sometimes how it works. So, and the people that get it have it, and then they're super happy because they can get twice as much on eBay.
for quadruple the price, of course.
yes. But again, part of what we do is we should help keep value for the people who do have it, right? I mean, we shouldn't do something that people buy for $20, then all of a sudden they can sell it for $100 on eBay, and then go, oh, well, if there's that much demand, let's just flood the market and go make some more, right? Because then the people that were selling it and the people who bought it for $100 on eBay are going, what? Why am I buying this for $100? They just flooded the market. I can get it back for 20, right? It's not. I don't know. At some point, I never forget that you were a collector yourself, and would you want people to do what you're about to do? And if the answer is like no, then don't do it. So
yeah, I mean, it creates a sense of urgency, basically, to the FOMO. You don't want to go out and get it before that happens.
But on our end, for me, Terrell, if people are going to be loyal to me and my company by giving us your hard-earned money, and the only way you make money, for the most part, is you have to be away from people you like, right? So you just go, oh man, I got to go work, I got to go do something, and so that money is, to me, equates to time away from people you care about, right? So anytime anybody gives us that, right, which is time away from people they care about, I'm very thankful for it. So I consider that to be a loyalty on their side, and I owe them an equal loyalty back, right? Keep the prices low if I can. Make sure that if somebody's got something that's of value, make sure you're not diminishing them. Don't ruin it just to maximize profit. This is the great thing about being a private company. I don't have to adhere by the same rules that a lot of other people do, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm not maximizing my money, it really it only hurts one person, me, and I don't care, right? I don't really care. I'm good. I don't need more money in my life. So if it means that we do something and we want to make a couple bucks, but it was good for the brand and people are happy with it, and it's a little bit of a thank you back to the fan, cool, let's do it.
Now, expanding before we leave that topic, like I said, I know the Batman stuff just came out. Right now, on the shelf is Batman, Robin, Alfred, the Bat Cycle. I'm trying to think what else, and then everything to make Condiment King. Are you able to talk about anything further past that, or we're just still in that wave? Like anything else that's coming out in that line, or
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because again, we've done different sizes, different scales, different prices. But the thing is, and I don't know if most people appreciate it, is that we have access to the DC library and most of the Warner Brother sort of TV, video game, movie vault, right?
right,
So that is tens and tens of thousands of characters. And so, because again, DC goes all the way back to 1936, right?
right,
We're pushing in 10 years, it's going to be 100 years of a library. So there is so much for us. Like people go, what are you going to do next? Like, you should see our list. They're long and they're big because it's like that library is deep and giant and big. And they threw the doors open and they go, Todd, whatever you guys think is cool, go ahead and do it. And again, sometimes we might not pick the right characters that resonate with everybody. So again, we make sort of toys that don't resonate. That's okay. But we're sort of fans ourselves. We go, man, which ones do you think we would want? And then we sort of call through them and look at them. And some look at it, we either make it because they're popular,
right,
or and I'm talking about as a character, or the TV show or video game or whatever was popular, or they just look good. They just look good, right? I mean,
right,
it has a toy. You just go, man, that on a shelf passes what I call the eye test. Even if you don't know who that character is, you go, that's cool. I gotta have that, right?
right.
So I mean, I've been in the cool business literally since day one. So never underestimate that. And if you can put cool on something that they know, even better. But if not, they might not know Lobo, right? Mr. Miracle. But both of those look good. Both of those look good. So I'm going, who cares? They look good. So
It's catching the eye. Yeah, I think I would pick up a Lobo. I don't even like Lobo like that, but I think I would pick up a McFarlane
yeah, it
Lobo.
looks like a badass. So yeah.
So we got some new partnerships that are expanding to the brand. Including, I mean, I've seen you do the page punchers on YouTube and stuff like that.
Yep.
I've seen those in the stores. And I'm old enough to know what page punchers are, but yet when I see them, I'm like, what is this? Like, so I'm looking at these little punchers. We're getting Transformers, Power Ranger stuff now, G.I. Joe, and Dungeons and Dragons. Like,
Yep.
when did that hit? When did that come to the table? Like, when did they say, hey, we want to be on the brand?
I probably I've been talking off and on with people at Hasbro for probably about a decade, because they created sort of a side project, right? Which is these areas where they're going, hey, can we do some more collector stuff that maybe appeals to a different crowd or whatever? So they began that probably about 10 years ago. Actually, a couple of people who used to work for me went and worked for Hasbro, and they were had some contact with it, and we're helping them with some of their brands. And we just it never caught on with us with them, but the conversation kept going back and forth, right? And then finally, we had a conversation at Toy Fair one year, and we just go, well, why don't we just start? Why don't we just sort of not overthink it, and start small? And I mean, literally, with the figures and the page punchers, and just see where it goes. See which brands they like. See what scale they might want. See what price points they want. And let's just have a little bit of fun and do something that Hasbro themselves aren't doing, right? And see if you can give a value. So where that relationship is going to go will literally be determined by the fans themselves, the consumers, and everybody literally votes with their dollars, right?
Right.
Like you don't have to go to a website and tell me whether you like something or not. I get the data. I can see whether you like it or not, because you're either buying it or you're not. So if once we get some of the data on the first wave of some of the Hasbro partnership stuff, then we'll decide what that means going forward and have some conversations with the good people there and come up with some crazy ideas, and I'll get a little more aggressive and ask for more things. Here's what I found out: when we have partnerships with other people and we're using other people's brand, there's sort of like a dating process at the beginning. Everybody has to sort of feel everybody out and
Right.
make sure that you trust each other before you start asking for any big favors. And so, this is us just sort of tippy toeing a little bit. And then we'll go. Same thing happened on the DC multiverse, right? At the beginning, we were just doing sort of your classic characters, not really going outside the box. They just wanted to see what we could do. And I was itching to be able to sort of go beyond that. And once we had enough success, and they were like, yeah, sure. You okay, we'll let you try, you did good the first couple. We'll let you try some other stuff, right? Well, and then
Right.
some other stuff and some other stuff. And as long as you're having success, they'll let you continue to experiment.
Now, I gotta ask you, Todd. Are you
Sure.
sure there's not like no clones of you like out here? Because there's no way that you're doing all this in a calendar year, man. There's
Uh,
no way.
here's
Like,
the thing. Here's the thing about playing a team sport, that you don't have to do it all yourself, right?
mm,
So I'm not playing golf, and I'm not playing tennis. I used to when I was doing comic books strictly,
right.
early in my career. It was just me in a room, and I had to do all of it, right? But now I've got these wonderful teams that we've put together, and people who have given us their skill over the decades. And you're kind of only as good as the team you put together, right? So my job, besides being the artistic sort of leader at the company, is also uh, making sure that I scout good, and I put smart people in the right spots, because if you've got good people in the right positions, then you can win championships, right? I mean, I've said before, at some point, I feel like I'm Phil Jackson, and my only smart is that I'm smart enough to put Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and three other guys on the court, and
Mm.
let them do their thing because they're so talented. So I'm a talent scout now, and it's just like, hey, how can I find my players, put them out there, and if they do what I think they can do, we're all gonna win. It's gonna make us all look good.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's the only way you could possibly do it. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no way.
yeah. There is no other way. Yeah, that's it.
Look, I'm gonna get right into this next one because this is like the question everybody wants the man himself to answer. But we've been hearing about this Spawn movie
Oh,
for like a couple of years of my life now.
yeah.
And we found directors. Last I checked, we were still with Jamie Foxx. Where are we with that going to 2020? Because I believe we're talking a 2025 release now. I mean, where are we got
That
kind of
was
status?
again. That was a comment that Jason Blum, one of the producers, he's the head of Blumhouse. I mean, he's
Right,
made probably 100 movies, if not more, right? So he knows how to get movies made, right? So that was him being calculating. Not there's nothing definitive yet. We haven't
right,
made the deal with the studio, but again, Jason's smart enough to know that, hey, if we get a good script in a timely fashion here in the first quarter, and we button it up, then we can go into the studios, make the deal, and get get the money that we need so we can start doing pre-production like ASAP. And if you go into pre-production by the end of the year, you can make a film so that you can have something ready by the back half of 2025. Yes, the time is all there to do it. Will that
right.
happen? I mean, we're all that's what we're all moving towards, right? And right now, so it will hinge upon that great script, right? And I'm in contact weekly with the writer, specifically Scott Silver, who wrote The Joker and 8 Mile, and a bunch of other great movies that I admire. And he just wants to get it right. I mean, he may be more determined about that than I am. He's just like, Todd, I'm not going to let this go until I've cracked it. I like it can't be. And I completely agree because we've had these conversations. It can't be Marvel light. It can't be superhero light. We can't. They're, basically, oh, we're going to do what they're doing on a smaller budget. It can't. And then he also just doesn't want to do like just a horror movie in and of itself because he goes, that's not meaningful enough, right? And so he wants and Malcolm Spellman, the other writer, along with Matt Nixon, they want to try something, right? And so again, we'll see eventually when we make it, and we'll see the results and see how many people go and watch it and how many people like it. We'll see. But I admire anybody, and luckily I've got a bunch of them now on my side of the fence here that don't want to take the safe path here with it, right? I mean, the best line that Scott gave me, and it was just last week when I was talking to him, was he said, and I'm gonna bore it because I was like, that's it. That's about as succinct as you can put it. He goes, I want to do something dangerous. And not in terms of storytelling per se, and not in terms of that it's dangerous in the movie, but do something that when you read it as a studio, there is a bit of a hesitation, maybe because it's not the formula, right? And that's the danger. Do you have enough confidence that you can go outside the lines here, try something a little bit different, and everybody hopes that it works. And if it does, then all of a sudden that danger doesn't look nearly as bad, right? The danger comes that if you try something different, it doesn't work, then people go, I told you so, right? Hindsight's an amazing tool. But between Jason, who's done a lot of crazy stuff at Blumhouse, and the writers that we're all hoping to deliver something that will just be different to the superhero appetite. Like right now, you go to the buffet of superhero movies, and there's not as much variety as I think people would like. And I think it's why something like the Joker resonated.
I don't think people know what they like though, and that's the problem. Like people are currently complaining about the state of the superhero stuff in the movies, but they can't truly explain to you what it is that they want. Everybody wants this end game level of movie, but don't want the story in between to build it up. Nobody has the patience anymore. I'm not
no,
me.
For me, I think it kind of parallels what's happened for decades in comic books, is that you put out 10 comic books. We love all the 10 comic books. You put out 100 comic books, then we have to be a little bit picky about which ones, because we can't consume all of them, right? Because again, we all live on a budget. So again, it comes as no surprise to me, because it's tracking kind of what happens in comic books, that the Spider-Mans and the Batmans and the Iron Mans of the world sell at a higher level than what we would consider in comic books the B characters, right?
Right.
And again, every now and then you get one that pops out. Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example. And so you take a B character, arguably a C plus at the time they made the movie, and they turn them into A characters, right? I would hasten, if I was in front of people, to just go, I think a couple of those were false positives, right? That there's no surprise to me that something like Black Widow and Shang-Chi and the Eternals and even, the latest one, Marvel's, produce at a lesser level, because in comic books, they do the exact same. Right? They're like, they don't buy those characters the same as they buy Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man. So
it just seems to be no room for error. Like that, I feel like
there is no room for error. So now, and then the other piece of it, Terrell, is that and you're older now, so and I don't know if you fell into the same path that I did, but I started collecting comic books and then superhero comic books, and I just consumed them. I mean, Marvel and DC, right? That's all I did. Marvel and DC, man, that's all I wanted. Come. And then I started getting older. And then I went, man, I don't need 100% of this, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, some other companies came up with some other fringe books, or even within the confines of Marvel and DC, they did some sort of older skewing books. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. And then Image comes along and you get a little bit and you sort of go, hey, here's a couple other options. And so then all of a sudden, instead of it being 100% superhero, you go, oh, now I'm like, 90-10, right? And then maybe you get a little bit older, then it becomes 80-20. And so we never give up the superhero. I mean, we still have a fond spot in it. But as we get older, I think we just, like anything else, we just want a little more variety, right? Whatever music we listen to as kids, we've expanded our music tastes, right? We've expanded our food palette from when we were kids. And I think watching movies and watching, and especially on the superhero front, we're just expanding a little bit. This is why I'm hoping that when the day comes that we finally can share the Spawn movie, that it will taste and hear and sound a little bit different. It'd just be different than what you've been consuming over and over. And then we'll see whether that's good or bad. Right. Again, every person gets to make their own decision. We'll see whether different dangerous is valid. I'm hoping if you're at the right place at the right time, it works. It doesn't. I'm not here to say that what Marvel and DC do aren't good. God bless it. I think those movies they should be proud of what they do. I'm just saying that just like when we started toys, that there was the way that the big guys did it. And there was a formula that the way the big guys did it. And then I went, hey, why can't you make toys just a little bit different? That's all I'm saying here, too, with the movie. The big boys are doing quite well, and they make their billions of dollars. But why can't we do something just a little bit different? And I'm hoping that we will have the same success that we ended up with at Image Comics and with the toy company.
No, I mean, I know nothing's set in stone with that 100%, but do you feel like you will want to go back and do another origin story for that, or just completely just drop it into the middle of Spawn and like people just kind of figure it out for themselves?
I have a different opinion than probably most people, and probably because I've lived with him for so long that I'm like, why are we going to waste time on an origin? Right? Like, what are we talking about? Let's just hit the ground running. The writers and the producers think that we need to, and rightfully so, I think, we need to introduce them in a smart way, right? Mm-hmm. Not just assume, because look, if this movie works, we are going to need people all over the globe to go to it. And if they go to it, then we're going to know that 95% of them probably have never bought a Spawn comic book,
right?
Nor do they care who Todd McFarlane is. None of that's going to be relevant. Maybe the only reason they go is because it says from the producer of Get Out, or from the writer of The Joker, or from the guy who co-created Venom. Right? Or so, I mean, they'll be going for another reason. I mean, think about it. If you're in Bosnia, right? If you're in New Zealand someplace, right? If you're in Spain, Portugal, Argentina, right? Spawn, the comic book, might not be the reason why you're going. So we're going to need moviegoers to make this work. And so that's the script they're writing. They're writing one that they assume that somebody doesn't have 30 years experience of it like I do in my head.
I mean, definitely. it's a lot all over. I mean, Spawn hits a lot of people's funny bones with certain religious topics. So I don't know globally if that's going to hit the market the way of it. I feel like it would work.
It's not. It's interesting because the religious part of it was overly simple for me. When I first started, it was like, well, there's a theory to me. Your good guy's only as good as the bad guy, right? Okay. So then I was like, well, who's the biggest bad guy, right? It's like, okay. I just went into this biblical bad guy, right? Again, just so you know, I'm not religious on any level, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. But when you're a kid, you're like, oh man, that's like the worst guy ever. So I always thought, hey, if I can create a guy and he can get rid of the worst guy ever, that's a hell of a hero. I'm not saying he ever will, and I'm not saying he even has the skill to do it, but that was the mindset when I created it. The story really isn't, to me, about heaven and hell. It's about a man wanting to live his life the way he sees fit. And it's a bit of a metaphor for my own life, right? So he's just saying, I don't care about what you want for me, hell, right? I don't care what you want for me, heaven. I don't care about either one of you, right? I don't give a shit either side, right? I want to be my own man. And more importantly, I think that we on earth should be able to lead our own lives. So, like, stop it. Stop interfering in what we do. Let us just live our lives the way we see fit.
Right.
And we're flawed, and I'm sure someday we're going to blow ourselves up and whatever else. But let us do it on our terms. Stop with all the interference. And that's just it. And for me, that's sort of my life. Which is why I started companies and whatever else. I didn't want to be beholden to anybody. I couldn't do it anymore. I needed to just be able to wake up and just say, hey, I've got this idea. I'm going to put it in a book, and I don't have to get anybody's approval. I'm like, and it's pretty liberating and cool at the same time. I mean, I'm like when people say, we got issue 350 of Spawn coming up. When people say like, "Oh my God, Todd, 350, that's 30 years of your life. How do you do it?" Like the answer is I can't imagine my life without Spawn, because I need that safety blanket of having something that I own 100%, and I am beholden to nobody when I'm dealing with it, right? Utter freedom. It's for me, it's exhilarating. It's like I need it. I need it. And I wish I could share it, because I'm telling you, it feels good.
You're pretty much like the example of kind of like the blue collar America dream. Like, you start your own thing, you build it up. You kind of, I don't want to say you do it to like rebel to a certain point, but you don't want to boss.
No, there's a rebellion. There's a rebellion.
Right.
But the rebellion just, and again, everybody can sort of make their own labels and presumptions of anybody, and myself included. And I don't care. Like, God bless you. The rebellion part is only in showing at times that people try to convince you, to con you, that there's only sort of like one way to do something.
Right.
Oh, you can't do it. When I started the toys, oh, little boy, you can't do it. This is not how it's done. And it was like, maybe you're right, but it's like, I'm not going to know until we try it. And then it's like, oh, you can't really go out there and start your own toy company or your own comic company, Image comic books. People wrote our obituary 4 months into the beginning of Image, and here we are over 32 years later. And so the rebellion just comes in showing another option. And again, to be clear, not better or not worse. Just, I'll leave that to the end consumer, right? Mm-hmm. You get to decide. But what I'm saying is that you can now go, oh, hey, if I'm going to do comic books, I can either work for the big guys, I can work for sort of some of the smaller corporations, or I could self-publish, or I could go over there and work at some company like Image and own 100% of my stuff. All of them are viable answers depending on your own personal life, right? I'm not here to say that everybody should be doing it the way I did it. I'm not saying that. But the more options we have, then the better opportunity that an individual can pick the one that suits them, right? So my success for me just allows me to be an example to say you can do it too. If I can do it, I'm not any smarter than anybody else. I didn't have like I was dumb in school, right? I just was a little tenacious and just didn't take no for an answer, and it kind of worked. And then if somebody else comes along and does it, now there's like 20 toy companies that do what I do. So yes, it's a proven track record. So other people might emulate it. That's the victory for me. I hate it when big corporations sort of go, if you don't do it our way, then you're going to get crushed, right? And I get angry. I get angry at that when people tell me how I'm supposed to live my life. So I go, oh yeah, well, fuck it. I'll go down that other path, and I might get lost, but maybe not. We'll see, right? But I'm not going to adhere to your rules simply because you've got the power and the muscle to do it. I'm not built like that. So it's my personality. It was like that when I came out of the womb. Hasn't changed once, right? Ask my mom. Hasn't changed once. So, anyways, and so here I am, an old man now, and I'm still that guy, right? Power to the people. Power to the people. So
we appreciate you. You mentioned Spawn 350. Man, not to say that I didn't think it was going to get to 350, but I'm also surprised it's only at 350. And the way that comic books work, I mean, you talk about over 30 years in the game, Spawn should be at least 700-800 right now. I mean, obviously, I mean, you guys take your time, you care. Every comic you do is worth it, like, as far as like the numbers go. But 350 is a big number.
It is a big number. It's 30 years. 30 years.
I mean, I guess like why? I guess my question was, why only 350? How come this hasn't gone to like a bigger number? Why?
Because of math.
I mean, is that math?
So let's do the math. It's easy math. Okay. You do a book a month. You get 12 a year. In 10 years, you got 120.
I don't know why I thought Spawn was bi-weekly.
It's a monthly book. So, in 20 years, it's 240, and in 30 years, it's 360. It's 30 years. Image has been around just over 30 years, right? So It's just a math equation. The reason Spider-Man and Batman and Superman have bigger numbers is they started decades ahead of me, right? So, but it's just math. I like so and when we hit issue 301, that was a world's record for a creator-owned comic book, like in the world, in the history of making comic books. And then we've now added 50 on top of it. So 350, yeah, I guess if we're going bi-weekly would be double. But it'd take me another 30 years to get to 700. But that will be 60 years of publishing, which basically means that if anybody wants to try and take my record down, and they're more than welcome, that means you better start at the age of 20, and you need to do it to you're 80 years old, and you better hope between 20 and 80 you don't get bored, you don't go blind, you don't lose your faculties, you don't die of cancer, and you don't get hit by a bus. A lot of things can happen between 20 and 80, right? So I'm gonna hopefully I'm at 350. I'm hoping I can live another 30, 40 years. I can put that number way out of reach. I'm gonna put that number way out of reach so that no sane person, especially a 20-year-old, is gonna go, I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it for 60 years. Like there's like no 20-year-old. It's come on, man. You don't want to box yourself into that equation, right? For what? To get a world record? I tell people, just make the biggest pizza, right? That'll take you 2 days. Make the biggest pizza, go for it. If it doesn't work out, it only took you 2 days, right? But you don't want to chase my record, especially if I get up to 600, 700, because you could do it for 55 years, get hit by a bus, and you're going to come up short. 55 years of effort, man, you didn't like. You just better off spend 2 days making the biggest hamburger. So I don't know.
So I mean, what's the end game here? I mean, we're at 350. I mean, obviously this is going to go on. We bring in some new characters. I mean, we want to we want to make Spawn more of a household name than what he already is. I mean, we've already had HBO, we've had the Michael Jai White movie. You know, what's the big plan, I guess, for the comic book to really expand this to new readers?
So we expanded in 2021 and did 4 books. We did Spawn's Universe. It was one shot, and then we followed it up with King Spawn, Gunslinger Spawn, and The Scorched. Right, all 4 of those set records of some sort. They set records. So we now do where for the longest time I was doing a book a month. We now do, because I got 4 books, we're now doing a book every week. Just so you know, just again, going back to math, just in Spawn, because he's been around for 30 years and there's 350 issues. Somebody put a list together for me, because I hired somebody and said, hey, can you put a list together for me? There's over 1,650 characters that have appeared just in the Spawn comic book. One book gets that many characters. So now I'm up to 4. So there are easily 2,000 characters that are running around the universe of Spawn that from time to time are going to need their own spotlight. And so this year we're going to be adding a bunch of titles. Some are going to be miniseries, some are going to be one shot, a couple are going to be new monthlies. Just to say, hey, if you want detective, we've got it. If you want sci-fi, we've got it. If you want superhero, we've got it. You want a team book, we got it. I do not expect throughout everybody to buy everything. Never have, never on the toy side or the comic book. I never assumed that, right? I just assumed that I'm a guy who runs a buffet, and the good buffet is that you put out lots and lots and lots of options for people, and then they slide their plate and they put on their plate whatever they think is good for them personally.
Right.
And that's it. So we're going to expand these characters, and Spawn's not going to be the only one over time that's going to basically be meaningful. And then the question is, what does all that mean outside the bubble of comic books when you've got thousands of characters? Does that mean that you can create your own universe out someplace, that you have to take it to 10 different studios to get some of it out? Does it have to be in movies, or can you make it movies, TV, video games, animation, an app? There are a lot of opportunities that are out there to continue to push these characters, and time is your sort of best sort of weapon, because attrition matters, right? The reason your mom knows Superman and Spider-Man and Batman isn't because she read the books. My mom never did. She just knew them because they were just always there in the right place at the right time. Look, I know there are these people called the Kardashians, and I've never read a single article. I've never read a single comment, yet I have information about them in my head just because they're always there. And that's a value that becomes branding. So what's the next step? The next step is, like, I gave you Spawn. I built I'm hoping a strong foundation on the back of Spawn. And now it's time to pay the next 30 years working on the Spawn universe, which includes Spawn, but not exclusively. And that gives you all different kinds of heroes. They're not all Spawns, right? They're not all Spawns. Some will just be guys that put on a hat and just try to go do good. Some will be people who got hit by a bolt of lightning or whatever else. And some will have some tie to the Spawn mythology. But if you're going to have a real well-rounded universe, then you've got to have all different types. So I'm hoping that someday I run into people that say, I hate Spawn, he's stupid, I think he's dumb, all those Spawns, what do I care about it? But that other book you do, that's my favorite. That'd be a victory for me.
Oh yeah, you're definitely winning. You were talking about detective books now, and I see that you were doing the Sam and Twitch case files. Now, as somebody that's obviously grew up on Spawn, for whatever reason, Spawn's in Call of Duty right now. I'm walking around, I'm like, wait, is that a Spawn skit? Okay, maybe I'm tripping. But we have Sam and Twitch. Now I feel like Sam and Twitch has always had like a they were never like characters that got
There
ignored.
are two detectives, for people who aren't familiar. There are two detectives, right? And
Um,
they've
I,
been in there since Spawn #1. Again, you
right.
bought Spawn #1, they're in there. Sam and Twitch have been there since the beginning. Yeah.
They're in the show, but now we're getting a little bit more detail into their lives. And I see you, of course, you're writing this, so I know we're gonna get. I'm pretty sure you have all the layout of this already done right now. So like,
Yeah. Interestingly, I enjoy writing Sam and Twitch, who are two normal human beings,
right,
more than the big fantastic stuff, because you always got to come up with sort of bravado, and they're fighting, and it's like, what are you going to say in a fight? Because really, in a movie, you just fight; they never really talk. But when you're doing like drama, true drama, you're writing drama, right? You don't have to worry about that. You just go, okay, what would two people in this situation? How would they be communicating back and forth with each other? And that's who Sam and Twitch are. Again, do they bounce off of Spawn from time to time? In the 30 years they've been around, of course they have. But when they're not being poked by Spawn, they're just two really, really good detectives. And I want to show how good of detectives they are. And so people who don't want fantasy, who don't want superheroes and spandex, then I can say, hey, I've got an option for you. Here, go read this book called Sam and Twitch. It's going to look like a movie. I hope it reads like a movie, and you will enjoy it and never have to buy a single issue of Spawn.
yeah. I mean, like I said, you definitely want to hit the genre. Same thing that manga and anime does. Like it adapts into so many different genres. Like you can literally, people tell you they don't like anime, like, oh, I got a sports anime for you. You're doing the same thing with a comic book. In the same world where demons and angels are fighting each other. Okay, let's focus on the regular guys that are cops. Okay, let's definitely see.
Or you could, or again, using your example, you can buy anime and not ever have to feel compelled to buy a Spider-Man book, right? You don't have to buy
there's a Spider-Man
you don't have to buy American superhero comics to enjoy comic books, right? And this is why I think part of the success, a great part of the success of Image Comics, which is the company I helped co-found with 6 others, that and I'm president and quite proud of it, that we put out about 50 to 70 books a month, and they're very eclectic, right? I mean, it's a wide range. Like right now, I tell people, it's hard for me to imagine that anybody goes into a comic shop and can't find something. I don't care if you're 4 or you're 64. I don't care if you're male or you're female. It doesn't matter. There's something in that store for you, because the range of books now has gotten so wide that your definition of what a comic is for a lot of people is still Archie and Superman, right? If you ask our moms and dads, and that's just not true. Comic book shops are like what, and I'm going to age myself a little bit, are what Blockbuster video stores were, which is walk into the store. The format was the same for everybody, that round, flat, silver disc. But my kid, when they were 5, would bring one up to the front. My mom would bring something up, and I would bring something up. And the difference was the content within the format. And comic books are the same. Comic books is just, to me, a format. And now, what content do you like? You like true detective? They exist. You like romance? They exist. You like sci-fi? They exist. You want humor? It exists. You want autobiographical stuff? It exists. You want superhero stuff? It exists in spades, right? So there's plenty of stuff out there for all walks of life in the comic book world, which means that a bunch of those ideas will eventually spill out into TV, video games, and movies.
Yeah. Well, Todd, I'm gonna wrap this with one more question for you.
Sure.
It's of course it's about Spawn. Since we left the HBO show, I don't think we've seen any form of animation or anything like that for this. Now that we're hitting these big anniversaries, I feel like everybody's talking about that movie, but nobody's talking about potential animation or a studio.
Right.
Is there any potential for this to be hitting animation ever again? Or
yes. So here's the reality of it all. Years ago, after the HBO, we actually started developing another season, right? So and not at HBO, at someplace else, and it fell apart. And then I ended up acquiring it. So I actually have work done. It's been done for a long time. Recorded, the backgrounds, everything. The only thing hadn't been done is the cell animation work, right?
Right.
Basically, all the blueprints and everything are done. Um, will we end up using that particular? I don't know. I've been intentionally holding off because I don't know what's the deal we're going to make in Hollywood with the movie. And so the first time I made the deal, it was the movie and that's it. And then I went and made the animation deal for TV. I said, hey, the people that are making a movie, you're making a movie, you're not getting TV rights. And the people making TV, you're not getting movie rights, right? Generally, they go together. And so I don't know. We're going to see. We're going to see how big their conversation is, because the people that are going to put up a lot of money for the movie may also want to swallow other pieces as part of that conversation. And part of the conversation is they might want TV rights. Okay, how's that going to look? What's that offer look like? Oh, by the way, when you're talking TV, is it going to be animation? I think they all know in the back of their head, animation would kill in a heartbeat. I've had animation people come and they go, we'll make it in 10 seconds. I could, but then it might hurt the momentum a little bit of the Spawn movie if the animation doesn't quite land the way that it is. So I'm going to walk in with the Spawn movie and then say, oh, by the way, there's all these other possibilities, right? Animation, TV, video games. Oh, and I've got a Spawn universe to boot. Now, I don't know how hungry you guys are. I don't know how aggressive you guys want to get. I don't know how cautious you may be. Those are just negotiations at a table with people. Right. And so depending on what that answer is, will then, about the movie, will then dictate what I can and cannot do with the animation. But yeah, if I only sell the movie and I've got the animation is going to be coming. And if somebody swallows all of it, then I think they're going to be smart enough to start getting the animation going, or a TV show or something. I mean, they'd be fools not to, because it's just primed, ready to go, and you've got an audience that's been waiting for it to come back. So, anyways, it's I know it's a painfully slow process, and nobody's more aggravated by it than me. But I'm just trying to sort of play by the rules for now, and make sure that I'm not compromising anything as we go forward here. So, but what should happen is once you make the first deal, it should snowball.
Yeah, at least I can go out knowing there's the potential of it happening. Like there was always happening.
Oh yeah, like no, somebody's gonna get. Yeah, somebody's gonna be smart. Going, why not? It's they're in the money business, and if they do a movie that works, why wouldn't they do animation that worked prior to that won awards? Why wouldn't they?
Well, look, Todd, I know I said that was the last, but I got one more thing, and we can close out. Sure. Now, Spawn has mysteriously popped up in every single video game crossover that you could think of, from Soul Calibur to I want to say Mortal Kombat to having his own games. Can you say where we might, Call of Duty? Can you say where else we might see Spawn next using the video game, or is that like a under wraps thing?
Yeah. We got a surprise coming soon. That actually I was on a call today about. But the big one isn't that he's sort of in somebody else's branded game. That and this is where the snowball happens, right? If the movie deal gets going and or it's successful, then everybody's going to be knocking on the door, and they're going to all want to be doing, again, animation and hats and shirts and video games and whatever. And so, yeah, the answer is, can we get a cool, meaningful Spawn universe video game? right? That has like Spawn and all the characters that we've all sort of come to enjoy over the decades. That to me would be like my sort of gaming nirvana in the near future. And again, I've had people question from time to time, but I just go, I don't have anything driving it. So why would people buy the Spawn video game unless you sort of know Spawn a little bit or you're a geek, right? Where if we come out with a movie and it goes big, then you can sell it in Bosnia, in Portugal, in Argentina, in Spain, and you can sell it up in a much bigger venue, so you're going to get more sales, which means you might then put more money in development, so the game will look cooler. So it all sort of interacts with each other. But yeah, I'm hoping for Spawn to be the title character someday.
Well, I hope so. Well, Todd, on behalf of Big Gold Belt Media, we appreciate you. This has been the highlight of the week. I got so many questions answered. Congratulations on 350 issues of Spawn. Congratulations on 32 years of Image Comics and everything that you and your entire team have accomplished. This is not, like I said, this is like an American dream. I'm sure I'm going to see some movie made about you at some point in the next 10 years.
Not me. I think the TV show needs to be about Image Comics.
Okay. I feel like we don't have enough documentaries about the Image Comics, by the way. So we need to work on that.
No, we need a TV. We need a TV dramatization of it.
But Todd, like I said, congratulations on all of this. Thank you for taking the time out of your week to do this interview with me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, Terrell, I appreciate what you and others like you do in the space too, right? Where I've said before many times that what we do is a team effort, right? You got creators, you got publishers, you've got retailers, you've got people like you that have to spread the gospel, and then we've got the consumer and the fans and the geeks, right? And if any one of those pieces breaks down, right? People don't publish, creators don't create, retailers shut their doors, or the consumer decides doesn't want to buy it, or you guys don't basically get the word out. Like it hurts all of us, right? So we're all tied at the hip. So part of my success is really on the backs of people like you and many others that basically keep our industry sort of burning. So it's been a pleasure talking to you too. And so I thank you just as much.
I appreciate that. On that note, we will going to go ahead and get out of here. And thank you, Todd, again for doing this interview. Thank you.
Be good.